noticed that more and more people are getting really into this foraging thing. Very much a Tudor and Stuart thing. So here we go. Today we are in my garden and I found us the elder tree. Not a particularly stunning example of a tree. In fact, the leaves are a bit smelly. The flowers are very sweet in fragrance, but we are here to talk about this tree and then how to use it in the kitchen. Now, this is considered a native tree to England, but you find it all over Europe. It was first mentioned in the 1200s by a physician called Alexander Neckham, but we believe that it probably was around quite a bit longer. It again is being mentioned in 1386 by a monk in St. Albans who classifies it as a tree of the forest. And of course our John Jarrett in 1597 mentions the tree as well and all its characters and qualities. It is a member of the honeysuckle family, and we now look at the flowers and the plants in more detail. The flower appears between the end of April and early July and has a very pleasant, sweet fragrance. In traditional herbal medicine, it's been used for arthritis and hay fever and as a cordial for coughs and bronchitis. The elderflower also makes lovely vinegar. John Jarrett in his 1597 herbal mentions that these sweet-smelling flowers were used mixed with some kind of meat as fried with eggs. Elderflowers were a popular ingredient for fritters and vinegar in medieval Europe and England. The leaves have a fairly unpleasant smell and in traditional herbal medicine have been used for bruises and sprains. John Jarrett again says that the leaves are taken in some broth or pottage and open the belly, purging both slimy, phlegm and choleric humours. He also says that the leaves boiled in water are good against swelling and hemorrhoids. The early buds in March were pickled and used as a caper substitute during Elizabethan and Stuart England. The berries appear in September or October and are almost black. High in vitamins, they are used for colds. John Jarrett again mentions that the juice was used for colouring vinegar and paint. But more about that in the autumn when they're actually ready. Now let's head back into the kitchen and do some Tudor, medieval and Stuart cookery. Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. So what's cooking today? Today we are going to travel to Renaissance Italy. It's the early summer, we all want to travel somewhere. So why not Italy? I have been trying out a number of recipes from France, Germany, England and Italy and Spain. And this is the winning recipe. This one is the one that got the thumbs up by everybody in my family. And it involves, as we know, elderflower. Now, the recipe book I'm using is this one. It's by Scappi, the opera, and it was probably Europe's most famous cookery book at the time. It was published in 1570. The very year Scappi turned 70, he was born in 1500, and it's a funny story how he got to write it, because he worked right from the early years of his profession for various cardinals, and he ended up cooking for 2 popes. The first one was Pius IV, who loved partying and excessive feasts, and Scappi really delivered. Then that pope died and Pius V took over. But Pius V didn't like feasting or partying. He was quite happy just having an egg. So poor Scappi got a bit bored, as we can imagine. And that's when he started writing this book. It was the world's first cookery book with illustrations. And if you are into Tudor age cookery with a difference and you like Italy, this is the one to go for. I can thoroughly recommend it, and you can see it's well used by me. Anyway, so that's the book we're using today. What do you need? Ingredients. I'm going to take you through the whole list. The exact measurements will be given at the end of the video, as well as on the online version. Right, main ingredients are elderflowers. Now, with the elderflower, the recipe does not specify whether you should use fresh ones like these or dried ones. So I guess you can use both, because various recipes of the time use either. This recipe says to let it soak in milk. I did do that, I did let it soak in milk, but it doesn't make much difference in the taste, I find. Then we need cheese. No Italian recipe without cheese. Now our Mr. Scappi did like his Parmesan. This one does not use Parmesan, but it uses soft cheese and it uses ricotta cheese. We also need some fine sugar. We need breadcrumbs. If you can get very rough ones, even better, but they should have a natural colour, not some over golden, unnatural colour. Keep it natural. We need eggs, and we need a tiny bit of saffron for the colour more than anything else. And for later, for frying, we need a little bit of flour and melted butter. But when we get to that, I'll show you what to do. Today it's elderflower fritters, easy to make, delicious in taste, and very seasonal, so important for Tudor cookery, and also this Elizabethan recipe. Right, let's get cooking then, shall we? We probably best start with the eggs. And one thing you find that in the opera, the cookery book, it gives you a whole nice list of knives to use. And one looks very much like this one, so I'll use this deliberately. Cracking them open, putting them all in. The original recipe uses 6 eggs, but I did 6 eggs with the first recipe, and I'm telling you, it's way too much. We halve the whole. So you just quickly whisk them around, and then you add the cheese. Doesn't matter which one first. Oops. There we go. Again, you whisk that in. Should have used a bigger bowl. We'll get there. Not to worry. This takes a little bit longer to mix it in. Next you put in the sugar. Fine sugar is best. It doesn't specify which sugar, but when you study Tudor recipes, you know that they would have pounded the sugar very, very finely. It would have taken them ages to do, but time was not important. Right, okay. Then we need to put some of our saffron in the water. When you use such small quantities, it's always a bit tricky to get them out. So what I do is I get some of the mixture, mix it in here, and can you see it picks up that small quantity very, very nicely, and you can see how it colors the whole mixture, and it's much easier to get it out like that. And I can actually now swap over to a spoon, probably easier. Then go in our breadcrumbs instead of flour. A lot of Renaissance and Tudor recipes and medieval recipes use breadcrumbs instead of flour. We might need to add a little bit more later, but we'll see. And last but not least, our elderflower. It does say very clean elderflower. Now, what does he mean by very clean? I think he means having checked that there are no insects like aphids on here, that you haven't by mistake taken a flower that was soiled by a bird or anything like that. But do not wash them. You should never wash elderflower because it does actually take out all its very fine fragrance. So just make it absolutely clean and has no other debris in it, and then just add it to the mixture. And you can see it's thickening up quite nicely. It benefits from standing a few minutes now, and it gives the breadcrumbs time to absorb some of the fluid, and it makes it therefore easier to handle. Because what we are going to do is, I first need to go and wash my hands, because the next step is with your hands. We are going to form small balls with it, and you can see it's a little bit too fluid still. It won't handle very well in your hands. So we give it a few minutes so it can stiffen up and will be much easier to handle. Right, I'll go and wash my hands and I'll see you in a few minutes. Right, clean hands so we can now safely proceed. Right, we are going to the next step, forming the small balls and then fry them. Now, what would the Tudors or the Renaissance Italians have used as a frying pan? Probably something like this. This is actually an authentic but broken late 16th, early 17th century frying pan made from earthenware, and as you can see has been glued many times, has a small hole here at the bottom, but it gives us a very good idea of how they would have used it. It's glazed on the inside. We can still see some of the charcoal where the flames would have hit the handle. It's black, well used, as you can see, and they would have put that directly into the embers, not the flames but the embers, and have fried various things in this. Kitchens like Scappi's, which were for the very, very wealthy, would also have had frying pans made of copper. But I haven't got an authentic one to show you. So we just have to have a look at this one. Anyway, mixture is ready. It has had a few minutes to rest and absorb the egg and the cheese. Now what you do next is you use a spoon and you put a little bit of mixture into your flour, and the flour will help you form a little ball. Scappy actually tells you to do that, so he tells you to put it into the flour, and now you can see the stickiness has gone and you can easily form little burgers. He calls them balls, but it's actually easier to make little tiny burgers. The smaller the better, because they are done a lot quicker. And they look nice. And see, when you've got one like this, it's ready to go into the frying pan. Oh. Now I have got to do quite a number of these now, so I'll see you in a few minutes. I'll catch up with you then when I've got a good handful produced and we can go to the next step. Last stage, I've got here on the heat a modern frying pan and some butter. That's what Scappy recommends, but he says you can use oil as well, and the Italians did use olive oil, so that will be absolutely fine too. I have made 5 little balls, or if you like burgers, that go into the hot butter now, and probably will be frying for maybe 2-3 minutes. We'll see. You really have to play it by ear. When they're turning golden brown, that's it. But clearly the smaller they are, the less time they take. Yeah, butter has this annoying habit of spitting at you, so you do need to be careful if you use butter for frying. Oil is probably therefore safer, but I like to keep it as authentic as possible. You can clearly hear the butter now sizzling away. Right, so you leave them to sizzle for 1-2 minutes, maybe 3. It depends on how hot your heat source is. But when they roughly start to get this golden colour, you turn them over and give them exactly the same amount of time to do on the other side. So you just flip them over and give them another couple of minutes, and then they're ready to come out. Right, I think they're ready to come out now. Lovely golden in colour, both sides, which will mean that they're also done on the inside. You take them out one by one, remove the butter from the heat source. Don't want to start a kitchen fire, which was very common, hence why kitchens were usually not inside the house but in an outhouse. Anyway, so here we have our fritters. All we now need to do is sprinkle some sugar on top and serve them. Really, they should be served hot. That's when they taste best. See you in a minute. And in typical Renaissance manner or Tudor age manner, sugar. Sugar has to go on everything, and that's what we do now. On top, we use a little sieve and we just sprinkle on sugar. The more you put on, the wealthier you were. You really wanted to show off that you could afford putting sugar on everything and into everything. Here it actually is delicious. And you could finish it off in Tudor manner by using fresh flowers from the garden. At the moment, early summer, you can use borage flowers, you can use the pink flowers. This one was called sops in red wine, or you can use pot marigold, which comes with yellow petals. And you can, or rose is always a winner. You can then just decorate it in any way you like, with fresh flowers. It just really brightens up the whole appearance of such a lovely dish such as this one. Now, let's cut one in half so we can see what it looks inside, and I'm also going to taste it. There you go, see, you can still see the tiny flowers if you look carefully. It's really nice and fluffy, not dry or anything. I'm just going to cut a tiny bit off and put it in my mouth. I am the main taster here. And yes, this is really nice, really nice. You could serve that easily as a dessert or mid-afternoon snack. And if you're vegetarian, just make a full, complete meal out of it. Lent approved. Hope to see you next time. Would love to see some pictures of your recreation.